Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for TikTok to turn up. Okay. All organized. Hello, Kristen, Aubrey. That's a pretty name. I haven't heard that for a while. Aubrey. Who's that from? There was a movie with, or a show with an Aubrey in it, wasn't there? Anyway, while we're waiting, I'd love to hear where you're from and how old your kids are before we get going. I'm also filming on YouTube, but if you're on YouTube, my bigger audience is on TikTok, so I tend to get the most questions there. So, okay, so where are you from and how old are your kids? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. My kids are 33 and 28, and I've got a granddaughter on the way. So you're from Arizona. Kids are 10 and 7. Welcome, Michaela. Michaela's a funny name. It's spelled so many different ways. I wouldn't even know how to begin. Like, there's so many different ways of spelling Michaela. Some names are like that. Texas. Hi, Texas. I think my daughter knew about 3 different Michaelas, and they were all spelled completely different. That was loud. I'm drinking kombucha. Okay, so where are you from and how old are your kids? I'd like to wait till we get about 100 people before I get going. It usually takes a minute. Michaela. Yeah, it's funny. Well, my name's Lisa, and I don't think I've ever met a Lisa who didn't have, I met one. In my whole life, I've met tons of Lisas, and their middle name is always Marie, Lisa Marie. I think there were 7 Lisas in my school, and they were all Lisa Marie. Colorado, 4 and 3, 23 months. California, 2 and 4. Auckland, 4, 5, and 3. We used to ski in Queenstown because we lived in Australia for about 20 years. Texas, oh my goodness, 10, 8, 7, and 4. Wow, you've got a full house. Bellingham, Washington, Texas, 6. Another Texas. Yeah, different Texas. Okay, let's get going. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or check out my behavior board. It's completely free. So that's all in the link above. Anyway, let's get going with your parenting questions. I did an interview this morning with a TV station. Anyway, and they want to know about tracking. You know, when you put trackers on your kids, you either track them on their phone or you track them, use like an Air, what are those things? Those Apple Air tags, those things. And how do you feel about that? I'm going to do a video on that after this. But yeah, how do you feel about tracking kids? Interesting. I'll do the video to explain how I feel about it. Anyway, parenting questions. Do you handle kids with mild brain injury differently? Yes and no, depends on what it is. Is it cognitive, or is it like memory failure or speech delay, or it depends on what it is. That's coaching. So I would need to, you need to hire me for that because that's more of a specialty because it's more of an exception, right? So yeah, it depends. South Oregon, 5'1", wait a minute. 5'1", 1.5", 6. Sorry, it's right in my chest where I can't read as well because the lettering is white. I got to wear a black turtleneck so I can see all the white words here. How do you handle constant interrupting from your child? Depends on the age. How old are they? Let's say they're 5 and they're constantly interrupting. I would say when I'm talking to someone else, I don't want you interrupting. If you do, there'll be a consequence. Use my behavior board and put down no interrupting. And explain what that is. Explain when you don't want them to interrupt. Is it when you're on the phone? Or, I don't know. But you got to be very specific. So yeah, I would have a consequence for that. And whenever you're disciplining, it's like a business transaction. There are no emotions whatsoever. None. When you're disciplining. The rest of the time, be crazy and silly and laugh and all that. But when you're disciplining, it's just a business transaction. Say, I don't want you interrupting. Here's the rule. It's on the behavior board. Use my behavior board. And if you do, here's the consequence. Okay? And then say, do you understand? And go from there. Check out the behavior board. It explains all that. My kids knew, I always said to them, if I'm ever on the phone or talking to someone, because they got lots of attention, so it's not like they were missing out. But I said, you never interrupt me unless there's a bone sticking out of your skin or an artery spurting blood. And luckily that never happened. Okay. One time I was on the phone, though, I felt really bad about this. My daughter had just been potty trained and she couldn't get herself on the toilet by herself, and I was on the phone. So she didn't want to interrupt me. So my son, who's 5 years older, was trying to help her, and she ended up having a mess on the floor. She felt so bad. And I said, no, that's like you can interrupt me in that situation. Poor kid. There, he was trying so hard to get her on the toilet. Okay. Okay. My son doesn't want to speak, even with speech therapy and home development. What can I do to help? I don't know the age and I don't know what's going on. You'd have to hire me. That's more of a specialist kind of specialty kind of coaching session. It's not something I can answer on TikTok. I don't know why he's not speaking. I'd have to assess the situation and then come up with ideas. I usually do stuff like I'll just give you a little hint here. If with stuff like that, I usually do a lot of theater and role playing, and we just act out scenes from shows that they like or something. So, but yeah, I usually have fun with it. But I don't know why he's not speaking. So, oh, you're not going to like my answer. How do you handle your kids being rough, mean with the dogs, age 2 and 4? If you can't handle that and keep the animals safe, I always suggest you rehome them. I'm an animal lover. There's no way I would let my kids hurt an animal. So yeah, I would actually look into rehoming them unless you can keep them safe, keep the kids away from them. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to set up a whole system for that. It's kind of like, how do I fix the kids with this? You got to set yourself up as a leader, then you can handle it. So everyone wants to know, how do you stop the kids from doing things? We're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. Set yourself up as a leader and then say you will not be harming the animals. If you do, there'll be a consequence. So yeah, but if it's a real problem, I would rehome the animal. I've actually had clients who've done that. They've had to give away their dogs. Does your mom know you're doing this right now? Huh? My son talks and screams over. I don't know why. I should always read a little bit, a little bit first, but sometimes I get caught up. I get caught up, and like I'll sometimes read stuff out that's really inappropriate. I've done it before, and I'm going, oh shoot, I shouldn't have read that. Okay, Michaela's asking me a question on YouTube. Is a lack of remorse, short fuse, easily angered, a behavioral issue or mental health concern? 7-year-old tried your behavior board for weeks. Now this kid doesn't give a crap about consequences. I don't know what's going on there, Michaela. You might want to hire me, and I'd have to assess the situation. I don't know. That behavior board is there, and it works for a lot of people. It depends on what you're going through, right? You might need my extra help with that. You can also check out my course if you want a course on your own, 5 weeks to get respect. It's the Bratbusters boot camp. That's all in the link above. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Oftentimes, parents will come to me after they've tried the behavior board on their own, and it can work on its own, but it might not. You might be missing something. Anyway, and they'll say, it's not working. That behavior board just doesn't work. So then I say, well, show me what you did. And then I say, well, that's why it didn't work. So I don't know why it's not working. But if you want an assessment on whether or not it's you or the child, like in other words, have they got some sort of an issue? I don't know. I'd have to assess that. Drinking kombucha. Beer used to come in bottles like this. I don't know if it still does. Back in the day, my dad used to drink Labatt's beer, I think, in a bottle looked like that. No, I think it was called Old Style. Anyway, that was back in the 60s, 70s. Wow, I wish I'd known these tips when my kids were younger. Yeah. Yeah. My son talks and screams over me when I'm trying to tell him not to do something. He's 2.5. Well, I don't use words with two. If they're doing something naughty, I take action. I don't use words. So it's consistent corrective actions with toddlers. That's how they learn. They're watching you. I just heard from some big scientists, they just did a big study on the first 7 years of developmental with children. That's when they develop. And they're sort of programming their brain at that point. And it was said, it confirmed what I've always said, is they're not listening to you, they're watching you. So the first 7 years, he said, it's all through observation. That's how they develop. No matter what you say to them, it's mostly observation, which is true. It's how you act and how you talk to them, and yeah, as they get older. But if they're doing something naughty when they're under the age of 3, it's not words, it's consistent corrective actions. I'll read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I don't know why I look at this. I already know it. But anyway, I like to look at my list It looks pretty. Okay, so number one is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number two is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number three is when you want to connect with a toddler, you play in their world. You don't connect at the nail salon with a 3 year old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number four is stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining them. It's not about words. They don't need to discuss all this stuff. It just doesn't work. It's all about consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. And number five is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Okay, they're just forming. They're brand new. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. Having kids has taught me how to be a leader. Yeah, I'm not a leader in my personal life at all. I'm more of a follower, very much so. I hate organizing things. Just tell me where to go and I'll be there. Like, tell me what to wear, tell me what to order. Like, I just have no, I don't care about any of that stuff in my personal life. But with parenting, yeah, you have to be a leader because it works. It's great. It leads to a great relationship. And then they'll tell you everything. You'll be a safe place to land. Potato laying on a mattress. Yeah, it's true. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Um, Can you explain some of your discipline strategies? Well, I like that the punishment fit the crime. Like if they hit their little sister, let's say a 10-year-old hits his little sister and she's 5, she gets to play with his favorite toy for a half hour or something. So I like the punishment to fit the crime. That's one thing. Can't always do that. If they do something naughty, then you say, okay, I want you to do a chore, help me out, empty the dishwasher tonight, make my bed, do the help with the laundry, whatever. If they won't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation. You say, okay, fine, you won't do that. Then it's 24-hour media blackout, and that starts now. Okay, I'll do it now. Well, it's too late. 24-hour media blackout's already started. That's how the behavior board works. It's just setting you up as a leader. That's all it is. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. It's all about you. Their behavior under the 12 and under basically is 100% on you. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. It's a direct result of your leadership or lack of it. So their behavior is all on you, which is the best news you can get. That means that you can guide them along to make good choices, right? Their basic personality, their basic nature is they're born with that, but their behavior, how they act, what they say, that is all you. Your kids asked you why I'm divorced. Say, look, and I'm divorced. My kids, oh, they were older. They were like 9 and 14. They didn't see it coming. We never fought. And so they just didn't see it coming. Anyway, they were really shocked. And I just said, look, just because we don't love each other, but we have no regrets. We had 2 great kids. And then we continued to, like, we were still very much a united front when it came to parenting. They never saw us fight before or after. So, yeah, just make sure that you love each other, love them more than you hate each other. You always put them first. Just say, we just don't love each other anymore. And say, sometimes that happens. Yeah. What if they love doing the chores? Yeah, it's not really a punishment. It depends. Because this comes up all the time. And I say they're still doing a good deed. Okay. But by the way, they only usually like doing chores when they're no good at them. By the time they're good at them, they usually lose interest. So, or you can make them do something else that they're not going to like. They don't usually like picking up dog poop or stuff like that. Or maybe washing one window. Just have them wash a couple of windows. But yeah, they don't have to hate it. They just have to do it. Something that they don't normally do usually. And there's always a time limit. They have to do it within 10 minutes of being asked to do so or something, or else they may never get it done. Like you have to always use timers and the behavior board. You're always referring to a timer and the behavior board. That gives you more leadership. It's a system. It gives you more direction and makes you look more like you know what you're doing. 3-year-old interrupting. I already addressed interrupting. I would just put it on the behavior board. They're 3 years old. I would say no interrupting and explain what you mean by that. And then when they do, there's a consequence. My kids wouldn't dare have interrupted because I was a stay-at-home mom and I was a full-on mother. And when I was talking to someone else, they knew you don't interrupt mom. So they just never did. But whoever I was talking to, their kids were constantly interrupting. And yeah, it was funny. And I guess I knew that the mom felt like she was being a good mom by saying, yes, sweetie, yes, sweetie. But the kids were it was so rude. And, but yeah. That's right up there, I would say, with whining with me. I can't stand whining, and I can't stand kids interrupting when adults are talking. Like I just think it's so rude. It just gets on my nerves. 2-year-old plays very aggressive with his sister, but not with other kids. Generally, other kids won't put up with it. That's why. His sister's sort of a captive victim. So, yeah, that's usually why. And if he's rough, I don't know how old he is, but I'm guessing he's older. So, if he's older than her and he's mean to her, I would say no being mean to your sister. Put it on the behavior board. That's free up above. If he's 3 and above, he has to be 3 and over to do the behavior board. And then she gets to play with his favorite toy for 10 minutes with you. Um, but he doesn't get to be involved in that, even if she wants him to be. Often the little one wants to play with that favorite toy with you. They can't do it. You play with them. Okay, when my 3.5-year-old is confronted that she did something wrong, she gets defensive and shuts down. That's because there's shame attached to it. I don't do that. If they do something wrong, I say, okay, here, you broke the rule, and the consequence is this. Okay, do you understand? There's like no emotions. There's no shame in doing something bad. It's just learn from it. Okay, you did that wrong. It's my job to impose a consequence. And yeah, so it would mean they feel ashamed. Um, there's shame in doing something wrong. So yeah, that's a learned behavior, by the way. So do you go on about it? Do you discuss it? Do you do the therapy sessions once they've done something wrong? That would make that happen. Yeah, I don't do that. I just, here's a consequence. Okay, all over, like no big deal. So yeah, that is a learned behavior. Um, like what I mean is you've taught them that there has to be some shame involved in doing something bad. Because you want to separate the bad behavior from the good kid. You address the bad behavior, but then you want to focus on the good kid. So I'm suggesting you probably focus too much on the bad behavior, right? Yeah. Oh, you asked about you're a teacher. I don't discuss teaching. Huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists. It's a different role. I couldn't do what they do, and they struggle with parenting. I'm home based, just home based. But my specialty is teenagers. They're my favorite age. But yeah, but I've never taught a class, so I couldn't possibly talk about teaching. You need more consequences for 7 and 3-year-olds. Blackout. Oh, by the way, oh, just check out my behavior board. There's some examples on there. What do you mean by blackout? It means no, not grounded. I don't ground kids. Blackout means no screens, no phone, no iPad, no computer, no TV. So blackout, media blackout. Yeah, no electronics. I remember once my son, he was late for something or something. So I said, okay, I said, you got a choice. Because I hate it when people are late. And it kept me waiting. And it actually wasn't his fault, too, really turned out. But anyway, some friend. But anyway, and so I said, okay, you got a choice. Either no PlayStation tonight or you can give me a makeover. And he chose the makeover, which he regretted. And because I just got all my makeup out and I laid on the couch and he gave me a makeover. As he's doing it, he said he felt like a serial killer because I was laying there like a corpse. He said, "Oh, pretty girl," he's putting makeup on me. It was a blast. Okay. Can you explain the allowance methodology? Sure, I will. I just did a video on that recently, I think. Anyway, so I started allowance with my kids at 3 years old. Let's say you have a 3 and a 5-year-old. If you start now with the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old, you have to back pay the 5-year-old for 2 years. So start real small with a 3-year-old, like maybe 10 cents a week or something. Like just start it off so that by the time you catch up, it won't be that big a deal. Anyway, so yeah, what I did was I had this journal, and it was a treble cast journal. It was this thing I bought. It actually had all these columns. It was date, description, debit, credit, balance. And I had 2 kids. So I started one in the front, one in the back. And when we met in the middle, I just started a new journal. So I called it Mom's Bank. And every Saturday I would pay them allowance. And I would say, come on, kids, we're good. And they always had to come running, so they'd see me do it. And then only I could write in it because it was called Mom's Bank. So I wrote down the date and I said, and it's called allowance. And here I put a plus sign and a negative sign. And then here's your balance. So they just started learning, and they never had any cash. I never handed cash over to them. They wanted to buy something, we'd discuss it, but generally this is just sort of focused on saving, especially when they were little. They weren't allowed to just have cash and go and buy candy or anything. So anyway, it is their money, but it's in savings and I'm in control of it because they're little children. I'm a leader. So anyway, what I did was when they reached $100, I'd pay 10% interest. I paid 10% interest on every $100. When they got up to $1,000, I gave them $100 interest on that. And then when they got to 1,100, I went back to $10 on every 100. So when they got 1,100, they got $10. So, but they only got the interest on the same amount once. So if they did buy something big, like let's say my son decided he wanted to buy the latest PlayStation game and he was older, and I said, sure, okay, so we'll take money out. And then it'll take you this many months to get back up to where you were, and he'd sometimes say, oh, never mind, because they like seeing that number go up. It just got to be a real positive thing. And they learned how to save. And also if they wanted to spend money, it was always a discussion. So they have to come to me, we'd talk about it, and I'd say, this is how much it costs. Your balance is going to go down by this. So we were always talking about money. So they grew up understanding money, understanding savings. And then when they were 15, I made them go out and get a part-time job. And I was praying to God they'd have to scrub at least one public toilet, just because I think that's good training. And they both did. Like, it wasn't their job, but they both had to do that at least once. But anyway, I cashed them out because I said, I'm not paying interest on an outside job or anything. And you're 15. You're in charge of your own money now, because I've already trained them for all these years, right? So I went to the bank, and then they found out what real interest was like. So it wasn't quite as much fun. But then they were on their own. But stupidly, I never put that money aside. I just put pen on paper year after year. They had both saved thousands and thousands of dollars. So yeah, stupid me. Put that money aside, by the way. Anyway, so that's how I did it. And I never paid for chores. Chores, you live here, you contribute to the household. There's no way I would pay for chores. No way. Unless it was something like detailing my car, something out of the ordinary, then I would pay for an extra job like that. But yeah, I would never pay for chores. They deserve to learn how to manage and save money. So allowance was just something I did in addition to anything else. Thank you. You teach me so much. I'm learning as I go. Perfect. Excellent. That's why I'm here. 4-year-old son will just scream out of nowhere. He won't stop. You're not a leader. There's no way he would do that if you were a leader. So remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. So work on your leadership skills. I suggest check out that course. It's the Bratbusters Boot Camp. Teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. It's up in the link. What's the best method for reinforcing consequences for bad behavior at school? Generally, everything starts and ends at home. So what kind of parent are you? Work on your parenting skills at home. And if they're acting out at school, that's kind of secondary. Depends on what's going on there, though. Like, are they hitting other kids? You got to get involved in that. Or I don't know what's going on there, but work on your leadership, because that says to me you're not a leader. The only reason they act out at school is because you're not a leader at home. They're either acting out at home or you're catering to them, giving them whatever they want. You're the pleaser parent style. You're giving into them all the time. And that's why at school they're just entitled, right? So, yeah. I don't know what's going on. You might want to hire me for that. I don't know. Check it out in the link above. Or you can just check out the course. Or you can try the free behavior board. Okay. Good question. I just had that today with a client. What if we already don't do electronics and don't watch TV often? What else could we do for the blackout? You take away a favorite toy. Never take away a comfort toy, though. You never take away a favorite plushie that they sleep with, but take away a favorite toy. Or you could take away, like, let's say you were going to go to the park that night. You might say, okay, we're going to be going to play at the park tonight, but we're only going to play for half an hour. We're going to come home early because of what you did. So even though you were only going to stay for half an hour anyway, so you take something away. There's always something. There's always leverage. People say, well, my kids don't care about anything. They often say that with teenagers. I say, I've never been able to not find something. There's always something you can use as leverage. But we even have to sometimes invent leverage. I don't talk about that a lot on TikTok because I don't like that method, but I have to resort to it sometimes. We make something up. We invent leverage. It's a hard one to explain. Every time I explain it, in coaching, parents go, oh, that's great. I get that. But whenever I do it on TikTok, they go, oh, that's horrible. I hate it. Because it takes a long time to explain how you do it. But yeah, if you don't have any leverage, we can invent it. You might want to hire me for that because I can't really go into it here. I just never explain it very well. It takes too long to explain it. If you really want to know, I'll tell you, but you won't like it. I've been doing this for so long now. I know what people are going to go, what? My daughter demands everyone's attention. She wants to be the center of attention. How old is she? Is she 2, 12? I need to know the age. Faith, true love. Faith and true love. Okay, so tell me the age about she's very demanding. 5. Oh, she's 5 years old. Okay, that's just entitled. So I don't know. You have to pick a behavior that you don't want and put it on the behavior board and then start there, the leadership. If she wants attention all the time, she's just entitled and spoiled. Is that it? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So work on your leadership skills. That just, they never act out when you're a leader. It's all about you. Once you're a leader, all those behaviors just disappear. All that stuff you don't want, it just disappears. So actually, I had a new client tonight, and I always ask this question at the very end of the questionnaire. I say, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want to get out of me and this coaching? And they said it was all about them, what they wanted. They didn't mention one thing their kids were doing wrong. And I thought, yeah, you beauty, they get it. It's all about you. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks. I remember you saying the fake Disney trip. Yes. That's inventing leverage. I'll just tell you quickly what it is because someone already wrote it out. Let's say you have no leverage with kids. They don't care about electronics. They don't care about anything. Nothing. There's nothing you can take away from this kid. They don't care about anything. It's rare that I do this. I do it like very rarely. But I'll say, okay, well, we're going to have to invent some leverage. You say to that kid, you say, I'll tell you what, we're going to be going to Disneyland. Let's say you live in Anaheim, right? Say, or wherever. It doesn't matter. We're going to be going to the water slide park. We're going to go to the arcade, whatever. This Saturday, we're going to Disneyland, okay? Yay, yippee. So let's say they're rotten all week. So Saturday morning, you say, okay, they get up and they're all excited about Disneyland. And you say to them, I'll tell you what, we had a really bad week. And then mention 2 or 3 things that they did wrong, that were really bad, that you didn't like, and say, because of that, we're not going to Disneyland. But if we have a better week next week, we'll go next week. It's not bribery. It's because you haven't said you have to be good. You just said, if we have a better week, we're just postponing it and we'll go next week if we have a better week. It is a tricky one to use. It is because all hell breaks loose after that. And then I have to tell the parents exactly how you deal with that Saturday that they're not going to Disneyland. It gets ugly. But if that's all you got, we got to invent leverage, right? But yeah, don't use that on your own. I always say, don't invent leverage on your own. Hire me to do that because that's a bad one. Where do I find the leaderboard? The behavior board is up in the link above. I think it's the very first thing you see. You have to sign up and you get the free behavior board. Okay. Very good question. What's the difference between being a leader and being too strict? I'm going to write that down. That's a good question. I'll do a video on that. Between being a leader and being too strict. You should see the words I've written. They make no sense. I just had my fingers on the wrong keys. Anyway, I'll know what it is. So the difference between being a leader and being too strict. A leader doesn't go on doesn't yell, for one thing. You never yell. You're very calm. And you don't go on about the bad stuff. When you're too strict, you tend to focus too much on that. You tend to want to give them lectures about everything they did wrong. And you're also too hard on them, and you tend not to play with them a lot. You should be 99.9% fun, like having fun with your kids and enjoying them. The discipline should be once you get leadership cemented, the discipline is very tiny. It's very tiny because leaders are fun. Leaders make kids like themselves. When you're too strict, kids often hate themselves. So you see, you're just focused on the negative. You're not focused on the good kid enough. That's why. That's when you know. Do your kids like themselves? Do they have high self-esteem? Are they proud of themselves? Do they respect themselves and others? Then you're a leader. If they feel ashamed and bad about themselves and they feel neglected or whatever, then maybe you're too strict. You got a screeching 20-month-old. Not much I can help you with that. They're just they're just toddlers. They're going to do it. Just kind of ignore what you don't want and give attention to what you do want. They're not going to stop right away, though. They're toddlers. They don't make any sense. Don't try and figure them out. But yeah, it gets attention usually, so try not to give that attention. I would actually get up and maybe leave the room. Oh, good, Brandy. You know why I love this. That one is so funny the way you worded that. It's hilarious. That one would bite me. The Disneyland trip, the inventing leverage would bite me because the next week they would be angels and I'd have nothing. If they're angels, you don't need to discipline them. Isn't that what you want? Don't you want them to be angels? You don't have to do it every single week. But yeah, it's something that you're going to eventually have to do, by the way. Don't promise them something that you're not going to eventually do. I just used Disneyland as an example. It could just be going to the arcade or going bowling, right? So yeah, if they're angels, then isn't problem solved, taken care of, right? You don't need anything if they're perfect. Okay. Yeah, here's why I can't help you. Okay. Any advice to help a stepdad who gets no respect, can't say a word when mom is in the room, he gets, is in room he gets. I don't understand the last part of it. I can't help step parents. He gets defensive. Mom is in the room, he gets defensive. When mom is in the room, he gets defensive. I don't know. I can't help you with that outside of coaching. And the biological parent has to be in on the session because I don't give step parenting advice. I give parenting advice, but I can have step parents there, other people there. But because the parent is the one that I'm talking to, I can't, yeah, that she has to condone what I'm saying. It's just the way it works. Oops, shoot. How to make a 6-year-old to be disciplined and responsible. Okay, so how to make a 6-year-old make good choices? In other words, be a leader. We're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching you. If you're a leader, they are responsible. They do make good choices, just the way it is. When they have a leader, they like themselves. When they like themselves, they have pride, and they would be embarrassed to not make good choices because they look up to, they want to please a leader when they're young. When they're teenagers, they just don't want to disappoint you. You don't want them to want to please you all the time. But between the ages of 3 and 12, you're in hardcore leadership zone. That's when you want to be their leader. You want them to want to please you from 3 to 12, not with everything, but overall, you want them to want to please you because you're their mentor, you're their leader. They look up to you, they like you, they feel good about themselves when they're with you. So yeah. Were you able to pay off your kids' allowance bill? Yeah, I'm a good saver. That's why I taught my kids how to save. I'm a good saver. So yeah, I had the money, but it hurt. I won't go into it. I do talk about it in coaching. It was a lot, like thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. It was in the double digits, thousands. They were great savers. Oh, I can't really tell this story because I'm not good at math, but my son, he did something once with money. He had got some gift money and he'd saved it up till I ended up having to pay him like $200 or $300 in interest because he got this gift money and he just gave it all to me in one go. So it went up to 900. That was $90 interest. Then it went up to, because he got that, then he added some more and he got to that. I think I ended up paying him $300 in interest one day. It was hilarious. So yeah, he got real good with that. Kid is great at home and tantrums at school. Okay, there's two reasons for that. I don't know which one it is. Either they get everything their own way at home, and that's why they have no need to tantrum because you're the pleaser parent. You roll out the red carpet, whatever they want, you give them. So they're entitled and they get their own way. Are they spoiled at home? And then at school, they're not spoiled. Or something's going on at school that they don't like. Don't worry, it might not be something big or huge, just something they just don't like. So it sets them off. I don't know which one it is. You could figure that out. Are you the pleaser parent? Do you give in to them? Are they entitled at home and spoiled? Then they might have tantrums at school because teacher's not going to spoil them, right? Example, being a leader. You know you're a leader when your kids have high self-esteem, pride, and they like themselves and they just make good choices. They're never disrespectful. That's how you know. Yeah, think about it this way. You ever had a really good sports coach? He's fun, but he has rules. If you don't follow the rules, you sit on the bench for an inning. Like there's rules, but the kids are embarrassed when they have to sit on the bench. And then when he's finished sitting on the bench, come on, he's your cheerleader. Come on, go in there. Would you ever talk back to that coach? Do you feel good about yourself with them? Like, a really good coach brings out the best in you. And that's what a leader does for their children. You're bringing out the best that they can be, the best in them. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect all the time. That would be stupid. None of us are. We don't want to be. But yeah, they're pretty darn good. 3-year-old is independent, wants to use the microwave, start the car, etc. Throws a fit when I say no. Um, yeah, you got to work on your leadership skills. Throws a fit when you say no. That means you often say yes. That's learned behavior. You've taught him that. So that means sometimes, okay, fine, you can do it. Have you ever said that? Okay, you just give up. That is a learned behavior. Like what I mean is he wasn't born doing that. That was something that you taught him to do. So just think about that. Do you ever give in? Does he ever start the car? Does he ever use the microwave? Do you let him do it? 5-year-old daughter is really tough on me. Mom at home, but great at school, sports, etc. 5-year-old daughter really tough. Okay, just again, set yourself up as a leader. When they respect you, they just treat you like gold. It's just the way it is because it's mutual. You're treating them really well too. It's mutual. That's why you're on that behavior board. You got to be on there too. You got to be accountable. Yeah. So set yourself up as a leader. You learn that by starting. You can either get my free behavior board, buy my boot camp course. That's 5 weeks to get respect, or you can hire me. That's how you become a leader. The behavior board is completely free. It's just the start and all that. And you start to get it. You go, oh, I'm on that board too. I'm accountable too. Kids love that. They start to respect you more if you have a rule and a consequence also. Nonverbal autism. I only deal with autism in coaching, one-on-one. Coaching is done on Zoom. So if you're interested, it's all done on Zoom. You can check that out in the link above. Yes, and then I say no when he starts crying. So why does it matter? Why? Wait a minute. Yes, and then I say no. Okay, let me look back at if you say no, independent wants to use the mic. So let him cry. Why does it matter? He cries because he doesn't get what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants it. That's why is it not okay if he cries? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Like, you just want to avoid crying no matter what. What are you gonna, if he wants to have drugs when he's 12 and alcohol and he cries if he doesn't get it, are you going to give it to him? Like, it's not good for him to get whatever he wants, when he wants, how he wants it. It's not good for him. He's going to be a very self-entitled, difficult child down the road. It's okay for him to cry when he doesn't get what he wants. It's okay. He's got to learn. The sooner the better. He's still young. It'll be easy to do now, a lot harder when he's 13. You don't want to hire me when he's 13 if you keep on that track. Yeah, now's the time. He's little. It's interesting. My kids were self-disciplining because they understood I was a leader from the time they were really little, so they didn't know any different. They never asked me for anything when they knew the answer was going to be no. They never asked. They just wouldn't have. Why would they? I started talking about the story yesterday and I got all muddled up. I couldn't remember the outcome. And I was saying that. I thought, I can't remember the outcome. I was talking and I remembered it right after the live. I remembered it. So I'm going to tell this story now. I was out with a friend years and years ago and our kids were getting ice cream at McDonald's or something like that. So my friend's kid was really acting out, like really bad, screaming and kicking, just kicking up a storm. And so the friend said, if you don't calm down, you're not going to get any ice cream. And he was being really disrespectful. So anyway, so he calmed down right away to get the ice cream. And then as soon as he got it, he started acting out again. And the friend didn't, and she goes, what can you do? And I never said a word. I never told friends how to parent. I would have taken that ice cream and tossed it right in the garbage can. There's no way he would have had that ice cream. But I know she didn't do it because she didn't want a scene. I have no fear of a scene. If you're teaching a kid right from wrong, I don't care who's around. I'm like, watch, this is how you do it. I would be happy for people to watch that. Because he started up right away. The second he got that ice cream, he started up again. And she let him have it. It was awful. It was painful to watch, but I never said a word. But yeah, What was that story? I couldn't remember the outcome of it, but that was it. The fact that he acted up again once he got the ice cream and she let him keep it. Oh, it was painful to watch. Is 4 years old to still be having meltdowns? No, it's not. They can have meltdowns till they were 14, but you haven't taught them how to process that. That's why they're still having them. So meltdowns, scenes, tantrums, fits, they're all the same thing. It's when they lose control over not getting what they want. It starts out in an emotion. It starts out because I didn't get what I wanted, but then it just has a thing of its own. So yeah, they generally stop by 3.5 to 4. If you ignore the tantrums, just ignore the tantrums and never feed it. Never, never, never feed a tantrum. Never give them what they want. When they tantrum over not getting what they want, never give it to them. Like certainly not the rest of that day or whatever. There's no way. And they learn. By 3.5 to 4, they only do what works. So if they're still having tantrums at that age, it's because you must be feeding it. Because they just only do what works past the age of about 3.5, especially 3 and 9 months. It kind of changes around them. 3.5 to 4 years old, they tend to only do what works. Kids aren't like us. They don't keep doing the same stupid thing expecting different results. I do that all the time. Adults do. Kids don't. They stop doing what doesn't work and they find what does work. How do you address swearing in a 3-year-old? Suggestions. Yeah, use my behavior board that's free in the link above and put down no bad words. And then every time there's a bad word, there's a consequence. Okay, so it could be they have to help you with the laundry or do some chore. If they won't do that, then they have media blackout. So that's no screens or electronics for 24 hours. And so you always start with the action, the positive action. If they won't do that, then you go right away to the negative deprivation. Now, what if they swear all day long? Save them all up, and every time they swear, say, I didn't like that, we'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it after dinner. So after dinner, say, I'll tell you what, let's look on the behavior board. When you say a bad word, then the consequence is you have to help empty the dishwasher. Okay, but you said a lot of bad words all day, so we're going to go right to media blackout. Starts now, 24 hours, a whole day, no screens. So that's how I would do it. You bundle it all up, and then at the end of the day, you come in hard with the second discipline. There's always 2 disciplines for kids, 2 consequences. One is a positive action. If they won't do that, then you do the negative deprivation. And once you've done that, they might say, fine, I'll do it now. Say, well, it's too late. It's already started. You never go back. Once you've said it, it's happening. Oh, I didn't know. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? Like they'll eventually learn. It's going to be hard at first, but it's so worth it because you get all this discipline sorted out and then they respect you and then all the problems go away. Once they respect you, they don't act out. They just don't. Why would they? It would be embarrassing. Would they ever act out in front of a teacher that they love or a mentor, like a coach that they love? No, they don't act out with a parent that they love and respect. They just don't. It would be embarrassing. Because if you're the source of your kids' high self-esteem, they like themselves, they're proud of themselves because of you, they just treat you like gold. Oh, okay, I've done the you'll know next time with my girls and they hate it. Good for you. That's when you lay down the law and they say, oh, I didn't know, I forgot, or I forgot. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? That's older kids you say that to usually. So you'll know next time, won't you? Not fair, not fair. I don't get into that's all I would say. Like, I wouldn't keep going. They keep going on about it. It's not your problem. That's their problem. They're just processing, not getting their own way. Okay, at what age do they outgrow the behavior board? Won't teens feel like they're being babied? Teenagers, we call it an accountability chart, and with the parent on it, this is how you introduce it. You say, okay, I've got this accountability chart because I want to be a better parent for you. I'm going to get organized, okay? So on here, what I want is you to put your dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. You don't do the big stuff initially with teenagers. You never really do. That's a whole lot. Teenagers are just coaching usually. Anyway, so this is how you start. You say, I want to be a better parent. I got this accountability chart out just as so I can be a better parent. I got to get organized here. So I want you to put your dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. And then you say, what do you want from me? They are pretty on board with that behavior board, right? What do you want from me? So you negotiate it. You're on there too. And sometimes teenagers don't want to do that, but a lot of people use that in their marriage now too. And they also use it At work, some bosses will take it to work and use it with their staff, and they use it with humor. Like if you're late, you can't turn up without a flat of donuts. If you're more than 10 minutes late, it's donuts and coffee. They can't impose that, obviously, but they do it with fun. The boss does it too, right? So it's just an accountability chart, and you use it to negotiate. What do you want from me? What do you know? I'll tell you a cute one. There's a whole bunch of stories. But teenagers are my favorite age. I started my business dealing with teen crisis work, so dealt with a lot of teenage stuff. This is a really cute story. This mom, I've told it a million times, but anyway, this mom had a 16-year-old son, and they were at war. She always said it's because they were so much alike. They were both very stubborn. They never really got along great. They were just always at each other. So anyway, he's 16. They bought him a brand new car, and he didn't have his license yet. So the mom took him out every night after dinner for a driving lesson in this car because they wanted him to be able to drive himself to school or something. Anyway, and they fought the whole time they were in the car. So I said to her, okay, on the behavior board or accountability chart, we call it with teenagers, your rule is no yelling. Make sure you yell so that you have to do the consequence. The consequence is the next time you go out for a driving lesson, you cannot speak. Unless it's look out for that train, like life or death stuff. And she goes, well, I can't do that. He needs a lot of guidance. And I said, I'm sure he doesn't need as much as you do, because she evidently was nagging him the whole time. So I said, that's it. That is what you have to do this week. So anyway, she put down fine, and so she yelled, and then she couldn't speak the whole time they were doing that night's driving lesson. She thought, there's no way I'll be able to do this. She came up with the idea of putting tape across her mouth, like masking tape or painter's tape. Anyway, just to remind herself she couldn't speak. So they hardly spoke to each other. They were really at war, her and her son. So as she's getting in the car, she catches a glimpse of herself in the side view mirror and starts to laugh. She sees this tape and it goes like this. It starts to flap when she's laughing. And her son sees this and they get the giggles. And it was this beautiful, they had the greatest time in this driving lesson because all she did was kept laughing and this thing was flapping. And they got the giggles. They were laughing the whole time. And then we worked on other stuff. So teenagers, you see why teenagers like it? Because they get a lot out of it. And you make your rule and consequence is always harder with teenagers than theirs is. You start small, you start getting it's all about relationship and connecting with your teenager. You don't use the behavior board for discipline with a teenager usually. It's more about connecting. Maybe by week 3, we might start addressing stuff you really want to address. But once they start respecting you more and you're accountable for your actions, they don't tend to act out. It just starts to shift. But it takes a while with teenagers. If you've got a 16-year-old, you've had 16 years to build up the relationship you've got. It might take 6 months to undo that and get a better relationship. But it's usually 5 weeks with teenagers. We start working on it, and then you can follow on your own. Or sometimes people keep hiring me over and over again. But yeah, teenagers are more about connecting and bonding and showing respect. I'm going to read out my 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. Oh, there it is. Okay. Number 1 is listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway. Okay. Number 2 is negotiate pretty much everything. Everything's negotiable. I want your dirty clothes in the hamper. What do you want from me? Negotiate everything. You want them to have a say in their own life. And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. Okay. Allow them to make mistakes just like you did. If they do something stupid and it's not that big a deal, say that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, we all make mistakes, okay? So yeah, that's my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. They're by far my favorite age. When you've got that mutual respect, they're just great because they're so smart and, it's great. Oh, I can't talk about your niece. I can't tell you how to discipline someone else's child. I just can't. My 3-year-old says, stop looking at me, and she just started it, but I'm not sure. Does it matter? Do you have to look at her? Like, I don't know, in what context is she saying that? Is she angry, or you're just sitting there having dinner? Like, if my kid said that to me at dinner, I would have said, fine, I don't need to, I would just looked away. Like, does it matter? What context? Or is she just trying to control you? Oftentimes at 3, they find their power. If you're not a leader, when they hit 3, they often look around and they go, Oh, you're not a leader. I think I'll do it. They find their power. If you're a leader already, they don't. They just sort of flow into the, they're quite, they need, crave and want a leader. If you're not a leader, they're going to do it, or they're going to be out in the world vulnerable to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. Your leadership is so important because you're a safe place to land. They're going to tell you everything. Um, Without that, they're kind of lost. They're very vulnerable out there in the world. She does it when I'm trying to make eye contact and talk to her. Oh, you mean the lectures? Yeah, I wouldn't want you looking at me either. I don't want to be lectured. I don't lecture kids. So, yeah, maybe that's why. Are you lecturing her? The mini therapy sessions? I don't do that. So maybe that's it. Does it when I'm trying to talk to her or see if she's okay. Yeah, it sounds more like a lecture. Yeah, sounds like maybe it's potentially therapy sessions. Kids don't like them. They don't work. Um, when kids have real serious problems, we discuss that, but we're just talking about lectures about what you don't want them to do or what they should do. So it's all sort of that pressure and that negative stuff. That's what they don't want. Bedtime tips for a 2-year-old, that comes up. I talk about that many times throughout the week with clients. Bedtime. Um, Yeah, their bedtime is twofold, two parts to it, the routine, and that is usually an hour long. It's bath time, getting your teeth brushed, getting in your jammies, and then 20 minutes or 30 minutes of reading in their bed, not your bed, in their bed with them. And they say, okay, good night, lights out, and stay in bed. Make sure you've got like a sound machine or a Galaxy lights going on or light going on, something that makes them feel safe in their room. Make sure they feel safe. And then you say, good night, stay in bed, love you, and then you leave the room. The first time they get out of bed, you say, I said it's bedtime, don't get out again. You put them back to bed. And then the second time they get out of bed, you say one word, bedtime. Every time after that, you don't look at them or talk to them. You calmly, quietly, and slowly just keep putting them back to bed. You're bigger than them. You can outlast them. Just it might last for an hour or 2 or 3. The longest I ever heard of was it went till 5 a.m. with about a 6 or 7-year-old. Went to about 5 a.m. This kid was going to win, but he didn't. And it was one night of sheer hell, and then he never got up again. So the parents won. You just got to outlast them. 5-year-old bedtime, yeah, yeah, same thing. How old do you continue your bed routine? 12 and 13? Oh, well, no, you don't do all that with a 12 and 13-year-old. So I don't know what you mean. How old do you continue your bed routine? 12 and 13? No. You just no. You don't have that. You don't want to be controlling them like that. But you might have like a time when you want them to go to bed. I wouldn't allow any phones or devices in their room though. Um, yeah. So say, okay, you can go to bed at what, 12 and 13, 9 or 10 or whatever. Probably 9. I don't know. I don't know your situation. But yeah, I wouldn't allow them to have any devices in their room though. Let them be or walk away or sit silent. Is this the bedtime? You walk away. Ignore. Wait until they. Oh, you're talking to someone else? Um, Oops. I don't know. Yes, stories and stuff till 10. Yeah, I don't know. Don't quite know what you're talking about there. Okay. I have a picky 2-year-old when it comes to food. She will not try new foods. Any advice? Yeah, that's tricky because they do have extremely sensitive palates. I was very respectful of that with my kids. I didn't want to force foods on them that they didn't like. I wasn't the least bit fussy. I wasn't big on liver, but I would eat it. But I hated onions and mushrooms. When I was really little, I would not eat those two things. I probably would have, but I didn't like them. Really, onions. I can remember not liking them. I remember how that felt. So my mom never pushed food on me, but I was never fussy. But my son was very fussy. But I knew what he liked, and I cooked around it. And then every so often, at 2, I didn't do this, but every so often, like when he got older, I'd say, "Well, you have to try everything." So that I put in front of you, like he has to try it. But they got really good at it, so they would just taste it and they, "No, I don't like it." And I said, "Okay, we'll try it again in a few months." No big deal. I never made mealtime a scene, but also I never had any ice cream or junk food in the house. So my kids knew if they didn't eat a healthy dinner, there was no ice cream waiting for them. Okay. Um, and even my cookies and cake that I made, that we didn't really have desserts, but so we would have maybe some cookies, but they were so full of nutritious stuff. They were like sawdust. I mean, I cooked everything from scratch and really healthy. So they had no junk food in the house. So that really helped a great deal, because they didn't have a sugar and salt palate. They didn't get used to that kind of food. So they just kind of liked the healthier stuff, it's all they knew really. And then they go to friends' houses. I remember my son came home once and he says, their pizza was so weird. The sauce was red because I pureed spinach into my sauce. I made everything from scratch and my sauce was brown. He thought that was normal. Poor children. Oh, well. They also used to come when they went to birthday parties or whatever, have at it, eat whatever you want, right? I was just fussy about home. And so I'd say, go have at it. They always came home with a stomach ache because they weren't used to all that sugar and junk, right? That was just my choice. I don't talk about nutrition on here because I'm not a nutritionist, but I do talk about what I did with my kids. So I made everything from scratch. It was only healthy food. There was no junk food in the house. So they just got a palate for healthy food. Is that the solution? Yeah, kombucha. There's no alcohol, so I'm no good with alcohol. I had 2 drinks the other night, and I get 2 drinks. I get 2-day hangover. I can only handle 2 drinks, and that's all. I'm not a big drinker at all. Never was. But if I have 1 drink, I have a hangover. I'm just tired, and I eat all day long the next day. It just makes me eat all day long. And then I had 2 drinks on Saturday night, and I ate like a hog for 2 days after that. So what would happen if I ever had 3 drinks, right? I'm no good with alcohol. Okay, any tips for helping a preteen regulate big emotions? Now remember, okay, if you're a leader, remember they're just watching. You can never regulate someone's emotions, but the more effective you are as a leader, the more regulated their emotions are generally. Because you're a leader, they feel safe. They know what's happening. They just feel safer, and they're going to tell you everything. When you're a good leader, they'll tell you everything right through the teen years. And so then it's organically gets regulated. Their emotions are handled organically through your leadership, your calm leadership. The more upset they get, the calmer you get. If they're angry or upset about something, you just get really calm. And it calms them down because they're watching you. You're leading by example. And you're a calming influence on them because they know they can tell you everything. But also, keep in mind, especially when hormones start, a tween or a preteen is 9 to 12, and their hormones are starting to kick in. So they are going to be more up and down with emotions. Don't ride those waves with them. You just stay calm. When they're up and down, up and down. And you never say to them, when you calm down, we'll talk about it. That's an accelerator. It's patronizing. You just say something like this, I'll tell you what, let's talk about it after dinner, okay? And then just sort of calmly walk away if they are getting upset. But yeah, your calmness is what regulates them. You can't regulate other people. It's like there's a lot of talk about this, about regulating toddlers. Geez, drives me nuts. About these regulating toddlers' emotions through when they're having tantrums. It's just garbage. You can't teach a toddler how to self-regulate, for number one, and you can't teach anyone else how to self-regulate anyway. You just can't. It's ridiculous. Here, let's open your skull up and turn the dial and regulate your brain. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all to me. But they can learn how to regulate themselves by your calmness and the fact they can tell you everything. That's a big one. Be a really good listener. Being calm is co-regulating. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but it's just they're watching you. Okay, my 7-year-old's screaming and crying, and when I ignore it, she screams louder because I'm ignoring it. That's learned behavior. You've trained her to do that because it would have paid off at some point. So sometimes you ignore it, sometimes you feed it, sometimes you're inconsistent. That you would have to be. for that to be happening at 7 years old. So yeah, so work on your leadership skills. You can get my free behavior board that can start you off on this. It's sort of the first step in all this, or you can look at that course, which is the Bratbusters Boot Camp, teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks, or you can hire me for coaching. But yeah, work on your leadership skills because yeah, that's learned behavior. You've taught her to do that and you're inconsistent, pretty much guaranteed. Um, I have to repeat myself multiple times before I can get my 8-year-old son to do what you want to do something. Yeah, I don't repeat myself. I also pick my times when I do say something. If I wanted my kids to do something and my son was playing video games, I might say, I'll tell you what, you got 10 more minutes on there and then I want you to do something. So I would give him a bit of a warning, right? But I wouldn't repeat myself. If he stayed on for 11 minutes, like I would put a timer on. And if he was on longer than, or I'd say just finish up that game or whatever. And then if they went past that, then there would be a consequence. Okay, I was going to have you vacuum the living room now because you didn't do it, and I had to come back to you. Now you're going to have to vacuum the whole middle floor now. That's how I would have done that. So yeah, you didn't listen the first time, so now I got more for you. That's how I would handle that. And if they don't do it, say, fine, you don't have to do it at all. So media blackout, 24 hours starts now. But my kids always knew I would have done that, so that's why they never acted out. They always knew that I always had something up my sleeve. Um, so they get used to that. You got to be consistent, though. I was 100% predictable. My kids knew exactly what I was going to say and do every time. There was no surprises with me. So that's why. Why would they ever act out? Plus, if I messed up, they would look at each other and go like this because they knew I'd be accountable. They would just say, Mom, didn't you make a mistake and do something there that you shouldn't have done? And I'm like, yeah, what do you want? So they'd say something like, well, we want to go to the water slide park after school tomorrow. I'd say, okay, fine, I'll bring your suits. So I was accountable too. If you're accountable, they're more likely to be accountable because remember, they're watching you. They're listening too when they get older, but they're watching you more than they're listening. Set a good example. Lead by example. I cut kids' hair. What would you do when they scream and kick? Well, I can't help you with that. I'm not a hairdresser, and I can't help you manage someone else's kids. That's up to the parents. That's the parents' job. That's like when teachers say, how do I manage bad behavior? Well, it's the parents' job to raise the kids. But yeah. Although I've had to deal with a lot of other people's kids, and if they're kicking and screaming when I'm doing their hair, I would hate doing this in front of you. I hate doing this on lives. But in coaching, I do stuff like this all the time. If I was a hairdresser, I'd have a few tricks up my sleeve. I would probably do something like this. And the kids are just, because I've had to deal with all sorts of kids. So I'd shove something up my nose or in my ears, and it would just throw them off. And then they'd start to laugh, and then I could deal with them. So yeah. Here's this guy, Robin Williams was in this movie called Patch Adams. And he was really good with kids, like really silly. And I relate to that. Like, just get silly with little kids, do something silly. The parents will love you. They'll keep coming. They'll probably give you a big tip too. But yeah, I'm not an expert at that, so I can't. I'm not a hairdresser, so I can't give you any great advice. We're in deep with our, I like how you worded this, with our 3 and 2-year-old thinking they get dessert if they eat vegetables. How do we reverse this? That's funny. I don't know. Let me think for a second here. How would I do that? Because we never had desserts. So they think if they do something, they should get a reward every time they're good. That's what you're setting yourself up for, by the way. If you do this, you'll get a reward. If you put your clothes in the hamper, I'll give you money. You don't want to get into that bribery stuff. So that's what you've done. So I would just say, I'll tell you what. Oh, shoot. Let me think here. Because I don't want to make it too hard on you. But yeah, I would just say we don't have any dessert in the house. I would just get rid of all the crap. I just would. It would just be hard. I think that's one of those things you have to pull off the Band-Aid really quick. I don't think you could really ease into that. What you could do is say, instead of dessert, we'll play hide and seek from now on. Yeah, replace it with something else. So yeah, no dessert, but we're going to play hide and seek for 5 minutes after dinner. Give that a go. Good luck with that. That's going to be tough. That's a tough one. If you ever did that, they'd say, "Mom, we would never do that." Mine too, and would get mad if I said, "If you ever did that." I don't quite understand that. Yeah. Oh, good one. There's some advice for you, the barber. There's a good video of a barber kids cuts on TikTok. He entertains and distracts. Yeah, it's about it's throwing them off. I did a lot of magic tricks with kids too. I always had weird stuff I did. I just take anything and go da 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 da. Then I'd put it down my pants and go, ooh, it's gone. And they woo, you know. Once you've distracted them and you don't get pulled into their being crying and upset and everything, you distract da da, you know, all this kind of stuff. They just tend to look at you got their attention, right? Oh shoot, we're all out of dessert. Yeah, bye. Good luck with that. The reason why I don't have a great answer is because it's just going to be hard. And you're right, you did. You set yourself up for this, and now it's just some things are just going to be hard. I can't make it's worth it though, right? You don't want to be serving dessert every night, or maybe you do. I don't know. You know, to each his own. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I was a bit radical with health, and I still am. I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. So I wasn't like that when my kids were little, because how on earth would you raise kids like that? A health food, yeah, but gluten-free and vegan, and yeah, I wouldn't have done that to my kids. It's a bit radical because then they go out in the world and yeah, they're like little freaks, gluten-free health food freaks, health food vegans. Yeah. Okay. My child started being bad when me and dad split. Started, well, how old is he? I need to know the age here. Yeah, I don't know the age. Anyway, I'll just give you a little tip. We divorced and 2 years old. Oh, really little. Yeah, you know, they really don't care if you're together. They just care that you get along. That's all they care about. Like my kids kind of sailed through it. There's always some hiccups along the way, but we never fought or anything. So, and we always supported each other as parents. So, like when we did split up, he still came over for dinner every night for I don't know a couple of weeks or something. And then the kids finally said, you know, can Dad not come over because they didn't feel they could do whatever they wanted. They felt like they had to entertain him because they if they just went and did their own thing after dinner, then it would just be him and I sitting there. We didn't we didn't want to be together, so why would we just sit there alone? So yeah, but yeah, it just get along. We no one even knew we were not together anymore because we still turned up to everything together with the kids. So, but yeah, get along, and that would be that. That's more than likely that's why they act out because they're either don't see the other parent enough or they see you fighting. It's your anger that upsets them. Yeah. Years and years ago, I ran a seminar in person, and it was parenting through divorce. And I said, here's what I want you to do. Don't turn up with your new partners. Just turn up. You and the two parents turn up, meet in the parking lot, walk in together, and sit together. Well, you think that worked out? No. The windows were open. It was summer, and they were all fighting out in the parking lot, fighting down the hallway. They sat together, and they were fighting when they were sitting together. I said, I was standing up at the front, and I said, I'm disgusted with you people. Like, I was just so disgusted. I said, do you act like that around your kids? And they were all like sheepish looking down. I never taught it again. It upset the heck out of me. I thought, wow, you could do that to your kids? Anyway, I learned not to do that seminar again. Okay. When you do continuations, it's kind of hard for me to go back and look, but I know you can only write so much. I'm just trying to go back here. Okay. Okay, Kayla, you said, how can I handle this and be a calm leader? Handle what? I can't find your original. You said, how can I handle? I want to know what you mean by what handle what. I can't find it. Must be way back there. Okay, Kayla, maybe you could answer. I'm just curious. I want to know what you or tub. I don't know. You're gonna have to write out the whole question because I'll have to go on to someone else. Bree, he runs out of class and won't sit and do any classwork. So at school you're having problems and you're the mom, right? He runs out of class and how old is he? You need to put the age in these questions because I don't know if he's 4 or 10 or different answer for different ages. So he's 5 if he runs out of class. Okay. What's he like at home? Because that I kind of ran my home almost like a school. I Not really, but I mean, I had very strict regimens with like mealtime. They could only sit at the table. There was no food around my house. If you want food, you sit at the table for snacks and everything. Drinks, snacks, you sit at the kitchen table. There was never an argument. If we're going to be doing Play-Doh, you sit at the table, kitchen table, and you play with Play-Doh for the next 2 or 3 hours. Because I'm not pulling all that mess out. You can't run back and forth and have food or I didn't want any of that. So my kids were very used to sort of like they were very good at focusing. And when I said, okay, I'm going to make some Play-Doh and then we're going to play with that all afternoon. So they would just do that. We'd get all the cookie cutters and do all that. So because I was so good at organizing things to focus on, when they went to school, they were just sailed right through it because they were used to that. And we had like routines. And then we had lots of mostly free time, but we also were very good at routines. So set up routines at home, the expectations at home, and then they won't do that. So I'm suggesting maybe you have a little bit of a free-for-all at home, and that's why he's doing that. So you can't expect them to be different human beings when they're at school than they are at home. They're kind of the same people wherever they go. So if you allow them to just run around and have like a bit of a free-for-all and you have no rules or routines at home, school is very difficult for kids who have no routines at home. It's a challenge. Everything starts and ends at home. Okay, now Kayla, I want to know what you said. How can I handle this? I want to know what this is. She's probably left because she hasn't answered. Okay. And then Jamie, I got another. Okay, I literally wish I could just put you on repeat for some of my daycare parents. Oh, they're great for me but when they show up, their parents show up. Yeah, I see that. I used to work with kids a lot, and they were always great with me, and then their parents would turn up and they were feral. It's like, wow. But yeah, that's because you're a leader, But if they don't want to be a leader, not everyone wants to be a leader. Some parents have a lot of patience. They can deal with a lot of unruly kids and stuff like that. And that's fine. That's their choice. I'm just here for people who want to hear my message. If you don't want to hear it, you're not going to, like sometimes people will hire me for if you're a mother-in-law, never hire me and give me as a gift to your daughter-in-law. It happens. Yeah, it's not usually appreciated. I can't tell other people how to parent unless they come to me or want, they ask for advice. You can't tell them. I'm going to read out, what time is it? Oh gosh. Oh, I've been on for so long tonight. Okay, I'm going to read out. Okay, 4 stages of parenting. There are 4 stages of parenting different ages, and it's not about the kids, it's about you, the style of parenting that you have. They go through 4 different stages. The first one is the baby stage, 0 to 15 months. You're all nurturing, loving, they cry, you pick them up. It's just that nurturing, loving, and playing with them all the time. Then when they're toddlers, 16 to 35 months, that's when you want to start teaching them more right from wrong. You sort of do that a little bit when they're babies too, but you're just easing into it. So 16 to 35 months is the toddler age. That's when it's consistent corrective actions. When they do something you want to correct, you pick your battles, maybe 1 per week, and you train them out of it by consistent corrective actions. Not words, not the mini therapy sessions. They were invented for the mom. They're not for the kids at all. And then you go into another stage where you've got a child from 3 to 12 years old. You are in full leadership mode in that age group. That's why my course, my Bratbusters boot camp, is 3 to 12-year-olds. The kids are very different. They're very different ages, but your parenting style is virtually the same. So you're in full leadership mode. Then it changes again. The last stage of parenting is teenagers, 13 above. And that is when you go into more negotiating everything. You pull back on the leadership. You want to hand over more responsibility to them because they're going to become adults soon. You want to teach them how to take more responsibility. You don't want them just to want to please you as a leader. You want them to want to not disappoint you, but more please themselves and be proud of themselves. So there are 4 very distinct stages to parenting, or that's how I've broken them down anyway. Okay, I have to get going because it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know why I talk so much tonight. Anyway, I have to get going. So thanks so much for joining me. If you go on the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that too. That also, that's what makes it work. I'll be back again tomorrow. I don't know what time. It's tomorrow, Thursday. So I'll be back again tomorrow. Whenever I've got time, I'll turn up on a live. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.